Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marisa and today I'm going to be setting up week 3, 4, and 5 in my March bullet journal. So I'm starting off by outlining the lion and just basically outlining everything in this setup. If you haven't seen my previous video, you should watch that one first. In that one, I set up the beginning pages of this March setup, and the reason I did it is because I wanted to do a theme that represented my dad. If you haven't seen my previous videos, he passed away in February, and obviously it's been a rough time for me, and I wanted to do something to celebrate him in March because March was actually when we buried him, and it's also his birthday in March. So March was a big month all about my dad, and I wanted to make my journal represent him. So yeah, if you want to learn more about that, watch my previous video. But basically in the beginning of the previous video, you'll see I did the trees very differently in the beginning, and I had to change them later because I didn't like them. This time around, I'm going in with the trees the way I want them to be, and they're going to be gold with brown tree trunks, like how I wanted it to be. I know trees are not gold, but that's the look I wanted to go for this March setup. So I'm really new to watercolor. It's definitely not a medium that I'm comfortable with yet. However, I couldn't think of any other way to color these lions without it looking messy. I feel like the Tombow dual brush pens can sometimes be a bit streaky when they overlap, and watercolor can be like that too, but it's not as dark as the Tombow dual brush pens will be. And I would say normally you have more control with a pen, but for these lions I just wanted to make sure that I didn't make anything too messy, and I feel like the watercolor helps me to have a bit more control. And I definitely found that, because I'm completely new to watercolor, but I found that outlining the lions in the watercolor first and then going over it with another layer allowed it to look like there was more detail put in, when in reality I only used one color for the whole lion. I did not use multiple watercolors. I have the Arteza watercolor pens, and they're quite terrible if I'm being honest, but I don't have any other watercolor, and they did the job well enough for me. So that's what I used. But yeah, I just wanted to keep the lions simple. I didn't want to overdo it, especially because I had a lot of lions to draw throughout this entire setup. And now moving on to the trees. As you can see, I'm just going straight in with the gold paint. In the previous setup, I was covering what I had colored in the trees with, which was a messy green watercolor. This time I just had to go straight in with gold and layer it up. This is gold acrylic paint, and I mixed two different colors together. However, I will say, I know these bullet journals are advertised to be able to handle paint, like they're meant to be thick enough pages for paint, and the paint definitely doesn't seep through. However, as you can see, the page does crease a bit with the paint, but if you care, then that's a problem. If you don't care, then it's perfectly fine if the page is slightly creased because of the paint. Oh, and as you can see right there, I took my Dyson to air dry it. I found that drying the page and holding it firmly, like to keep it flat, would kind of help the wrinkling a little bit. So that's what I tried to do. And now I'm on my next setup. I really like how the adult lion came out in this setup, but I don't like the lion cub. I feel like as a sketch, the lion cub on this page didn't look too bad, but once I was done with it, I think it ended up looking like a little gremlin. Wasn't meant to look like that, but whatever, things happen. I feel like sometimes when you sketch something out, it looks exactly how you want it to look. And then when you go in with the fine liner, you end up messing something up and you can't really undo it. So then you're kind of stuck with whatever you created. And then I kind of feel like, what was the point in sketching it in the first place? But I know for a fact I could not draw a lion by going straight in with a fine liner on a blank page. There would be no lion, it'd be even a worse looking gremlin. But I had other lion cubs in this setup that look cuter than this one, so I can live with it, it doesn't matter. So I'm also sorry that this video has come out so late. I know it's practically the end of March. I obviously filmed this a couple weeks ago and I planned to upload it earlier, but things happened. But I thought I'd post it anyway because I feel like this theme is not specific to March for anyone else. So if you like this theme, you can definitely replicate it in your own journals, and you could even do it for April if you wanted to. However, I do have an April setup that I have filmed. I filmed it today actually, and I'm going to edit it and try to get it out by April 1st at least. So stick around for that. It's going to be a completely different setup to what I've been doing. I'm including a whole bunch of trackers. There's going to be a habit tracker, a weight tracker, a productivity tracker, and it's just very different to how my previous monthly setups have been. I decided to go all out there and do something different because I would say that in my bullet journal so far, I've tried to keep my spreads minimal. I basically just have a cover page and a quote page. Then I have the calendar and a mood tracker, and then I go straight into my weeklies. However, I have decided to add a whole bunch of stuff and change things to try and make my bullet journal a bit more useful. Definitely in the beginning of the year, my bullet journal was more of just a way to relax because my dad was in the hospital since the beginning of January and it was very stressful. So I didn't really have time to track habits or anything. I just wanted to draw and have fun. So that's what I used my bullet journal for in the beginning. But now that I need to kind of take my life back and get on with life, I've decided to include a whole bunch of trackers. So if you're interested to see how I did my trackers, which look very different for next time, definitely keep an eye out for my next video. I will be uploading it soon, and it's just going to have a whole different vibe to my previous setups. And I'm just going to see which ones I prefer. So I know that normally a month has 4 weeks, not 5, but March ran pretty long, and my dad's birthday is actually March 31st, and I could have made this week 1 of April, since like 4 days of the week are April, but then my dad's birthday would be on an April setup instead of a March setup, so I just decided to make March 5 weeks. And I decided to draw the dad lion hugging the lion cub right next to his birthday, which is the 31st. I just thought it'd be really symbolic to have like a dad lion actually hugging the cub for his birthday week. I feel like during this time that I'm grieving, I'm definitely going through different emotions and different feelings, and I feel like all I want to do right now is honor my dad. I don't want to like forget him or exclude him from my life in any way. And so since March, for me anyway, is all about my dad, that's why it was important for me to make this setup about him, especially the week of his birthday. I just wanted the lions hugging each other. Also because the other lions were all just like sat there, just chilling, vibing. But I just thought, since I have drawn 4 sets of lions being all cute and normal, why not do the last week where they're hugging each other? and they're just all cute. And then that way I also didn't have to draw another cub face, because I don't know why, but drawing a baby cub is a lot more difficult than the main lion itself. It could just be because they're smaller, like the proportions are different. I'm not sure what it is entirely, but drawing a baby cub I found to be a bit more challenging, and drawing an adult lion just seemed a bit more simple. So for this setup, I didn't have to draw a cub's face because the face is hidden. And you're going to see with this lion, I forgot to color in his nose. I meant to color in with my marker, but I just ended up forgetting. But after I was done filming, I noticed, and I went back in and colored the nose in with a brown marker. Over here, you're probably wondering why I keep going over the lion in watercolor. The reason is because I was just trying to darken it up. I'm not sure why, but I just, like in person, I just felt like the other lions looked a little bit darker, and this one, for some reason, I just felt like it wasn't looking dark enough. So that's why I kept layering up the watercolor, but it wasn't really making much of a difference. I think in reality, if I wanted to darken it, I would have needed to go in with a darker watercolor. But I didn't want to mess with my color palette, so I just ended up leaving it the way it was. So onto this spread, I didn't do this in my January or February setup, but I decided to do this for March, where I would do a monthly check-in and a monthly review page. And basically the monthly check-in, my plan is at the beginning of the month, write how I feel emotionally, physically, and about my weight. My weight is like a whole separate thing, don't worry about it. But I wanted to write in how I feel in the beginning of the month versus the end of the month. And especially since I'm grieving, those three things are very important to me at the moment, and things that I want to be conscious of and aware of. And for the monthly review page, I decided to just write down things I accomplished, things I need to improve on, how do I feel about grief, and what would my dad say to me. And obviously, if you're doing a monthly review page, your headings might be completely different, and that's fine. For me, these are the things I wanted to make a note of, because I feel like sometimes it's just important to write them down, especially the what would my dad say to me, because I'll have to sit down and actually think of what my dad would say to me by the end of the month and actually write it down. And I feel like for my grieving process, that's really helpful because, like I said, I don't want to just completely act as if my dad isn't here anymore, which I know that's the case, I know he's not here, but I don't want to fully just treat him like he's gone, you know? And if I can think of what he would say to me throughout the day and things like that, and then just write it down at the end of the month, I feel like it would just be like very helpful for me and comforting. So I'm gonna do that. I did a page similar to this for my April setup, which will be uploaded soon, so you can see how that one looks. It definitely has a different vibe, but the layout is the same. And then I just went in on this little lion. He's so cute. He is my favorite lion cub out of all the lion cubs that I drew. This one is so adorable, and he's really chubby as well, and I just love it. It's so cute. Okay, and now it's time for the final flip through of my entire March setup. So again, if you want to see how I set up these pages, it's obviously very similar to this setup, but you can watch that in my previous video. And this is my mood tracker halfway filled out throughout the month. And in each box, I like to put in my daily tasks, but I also like to just write a quick sentence about how my day went and how I'm feeling. I feel like it's really important to write those down sometimes because it can kind of be a reflection on how you're feeling, especially when you go back and read it. and it can kind of encourage you to do better the next day, I find. But yeah, these are the rest of the lions. I love how they turned out. They're so cute. And I really love the monthly check-in and monthly review page. It's just what I need at the end of my month. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.